That is James Mennie. He is over at the Montreal Gazette. So, Jim, we now have a date for that by-election coming up in August. This is going to be in Arthabaska. And I love what you wrote here because maybe this is in fact it, right? Is this when unofficially the Quebec election campaign does begin?
Absolutely, Aaron. I mean, let's face it, the PQ and the Conservative Party of Quebec are perceived to be neck and neck in this riding. If the Tories win, that means Eric James finally gets to go to the National Assembly. His party in the last election got almost 13% of the vote, but received absolutely no seats in the National Assembly. But it's also going to be an indicator. Quite frankly, it's going to be a road test for the PQ. When it's not going up against the CAQ, when it's not going up, against opposition in what is perceived as friendly territory, let's see how well they do. As far as I know, and I apologize in advance if they did announce something that I missed, the Liberals have not announced a candidate for that riding yet. I don't know how seriously they're going to take this particular exercise or whether they have bigger plans down the road, Aaron. But all that said, please, there's going to be a lot of attention paid here. And I know there's a lot of complaints from the opposition. Say, Francois Legault, he's so fan de regime. He scheduled this right in the middle of summer where no one's paying attention. Trust me, folks, everyone's paying attention. This government has stuck its nose so deeply into our daily lives and thrown so much of our money out the window that you'd be hard-pressed to find a Quebec taxpayer, even if they're on vacation, who is not paying attention to what this government has done or will do to them. A lot of people, even this time of year, after reading about or hearing about the government's attempts to cut $500 million from the education budget from the already beleaguered school system, guess what? School taxes are going up this time of year. So please don't think there's a dry gulch kind of desert window of opportunity for the CAQ here. Everyone's going to have their eye on this one. And quite frankly, I think the people who've got the most to lose right now are the PQ. This, as I say, is a real test. And unless they come through big time, if they prove themselves to be a powerfully coming result, even if they just edge the Conservative Party out of the seat, that's going to be a very, very serious problem for Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon, because on top of everything else, he's going to have to try and, sand down the hard edges of his pledge to hold a sovereignty referendum should this party form a government, which I don't think it will, but he's got these. He put this anchor around his neck, and now he's going to have to drag it around with him. So we'll see just how heavy that anchor is on August 11th. But in the meantime, I think the campaign is going to be absolutely fascinating, Aaron, because let's face it, yes, it's a by-election. Yes, there are issues in Arthabaska, which is in the Zone de Quebec around Victoriaville. But all that said, please don't think that the campaigns will not have a very provincial, i.e. national flavor. That the campaign will not be aimed at just voters in Arthabaska. They'll be aimed at voters across Quebec, because this is where you start to stake out your territory. This is where you start to establish your brand.
I want to go back to what you said about the education system. I had a chance to speak to Joe Ortone earlier. We're going to replay that interview just after 5:30. The petition now, and this has brought unions together, employees together, is up to over 150,000 signatures calling on the provincial government to, do away with these cuts in education. Mm-hmm. And then someone did a reference, that this would be the second largest petition ever. You know what the first largest is in Quebec?
No idea.
The resignation, or calling for the resignation, of Jean Charest as Premier of Quebec back in 2011. They launched the petition. Remember the public inquiry into political party financing? It was that one. This is now the second biggest one. That had over 200,000 signatures on it. So I wonder if this means anything.
Well, I got to tell you, in this, back in the day, when I first encountered petitions, you actually had to hold a pen and bend over and scribble your name. Now you just have to click on your mouse. So let's not talk about people manning the barricades here, and let's not talk about 150,000 people, clicking on their mice in terms of saying I oppose budget cuts. It makes for a nice headline, but please don't think the CAQ's going to be swayed by this. It's not going to change anything. In fact, expect to see more cuts coming down the road. This deficit, which is now, we're being told the next budget will be it'll just be $7 billion. But let's face it, I'm sure between all the uncertainty with the trade tariffs and so on, it'll probably be higher than that. We're in real trouble here. We have no money. We've got no money. In fact, I just saw a headline in La Presse saying that the city of Montreal, God help us, is cutting 200 jobs because they too are on the verge of being broke. So there's no money out there, and there's going to be more cuts. And the question a lot of people have to ask themselves, and maybe a lot of people in North Alaska are going to ask themselves, do you trust? Who do you trust with your money? Who do you trust with your kids' future? And if it's someone who has made a political career out of blaming people who don't look like the majority of Quebecers for all the problems in Quebec, like someone like François Legault, well, maybe that's where your vote's going to go. I don't think it's going to go. And quite frankly, even though it was a tactic that seemed to be payant, as we say in these parts, for the Parti Québécois, I think they may have to shift gears between now and the general election, because I think there's a growing sense that everyone's out to get you and you're only safe with us. That ain't working. It's not working for people's paychecks. It's not working for our economic process. It certainly isn't working for the housing crisis. All the things that Quebecers and every other Canadian are concerned about. The number one priority being the cost of living and so on and so forth. As far as I can tell, the cat's got zero credibility, and the PQ is going to have to build some. So we'll see how that's going to go. But yeah, please don't think that August 11th will be a by-election come des autres. It's going to be a very, very interesting electoral exercise.
Jim, do you really not think there's any chance that, given this, the outcry right now and the fact that so many people are coming together on this petition, that the government sort of backs down at least to some degree on the education cuts?
When does this government back down on anything? I mean, and the most ridiculously clearly illegal things they've done, they just double down. They're not. I mean, do you really think that after going through all of this exercise of saying how and never mind the money, Aaron, and this is a government whose real education policy is to make sure that you address your teachers as sir and ma'am, and you use a proper form of address in a respectful form of address in French, and that you put away your cell phone, and that's it. And tell me, someone tell me, great topic for a show, Aaron. Do you think your kids are coming out of school any smarter than you did? Because I don't think so. I think the bottom line here is we're in this danse macabre where there's this big, giant, endless mouth that they keep shoveling money into, called the education system or the healthcare system. And as people are happy to do it, they understand these things are important. But if they don't work, you've got some explaining to do. But who in the hell is going to do the explaining? Certainly not the cat.
Jim, I want to get to this last piece here before, we have to wrap up. I've not heard a word. Then again, given what happened in the last federal election to the NDP, maybe that's not surprising. Yeah. Have they disappeared? Where are they, Jim?
Well, this is the question. One of the criteria I use for finding topics to talk about is when I find something that makes me laugh out loud. And a new survey has determined that most of there's a wide open leadership race for the NDP right now, and there are 9 possible NDP candidates, and nobody has heard of any of them. Ruth Hélène Brosseau, who who made a lot of headlines, because she, with her first foray into politics, and she did very well. I think she pulled all of 18%. The mayor of Vancouver, Kennedy Stewart, who I've never heard of until I read this story, they're all in very low, under 20%, and it's just like crazy. And how do you sell it? How are you going to sell it now? Especially, and we've had the conversation how politics in this country, and that in that manner, have devolved à la Americaine, that we're going to have a two-party system. We used to have a two-party system back in the day, and I think we're returning to that. So, good luck to the NDP, but quite frankly, I think they are living proof that when you try and pretend to please everybody gangs up on you and drop kicks you out of office.
Amazing, isn't it, how things turn around in such a short period of time politically in this country, but I guess in general.
No, in general, but yeah. But what you're saying is, listen, it is the pace of change now. I've been doing this show for more than 10 years, but I say in the last 3 years, things have absolutely gone nuts.
Couldn't agree more. James Mennie at the Montreal Gazette. Thank you, Jim.
Glad to meet you.